So now we are going to visualize glomerular syndromes. So for the glomerular syndromes, you need to know that there are 5 glomerular syndromes. The first syndrome is going to be nephrotic syndrome. Is it clear? Nephrotic syndrome is made up of 5 major elements. The first element is going to be proteinuria, and the proteinuria is going to be nephrotic range proteinuria. Nephrotic range proteinuria. I've already explained nephrotic range proteinuria, that is going to be greater than 3 grams of proteinuria in a 24-hour urine sample, or you have a dipstick of at least 4 plus urine. The second one, after in the nephrotic syndrome, you are going to have a hypoalbuminemia, and then the value has to be less than 3 grams per deciliter in blood. Albumin level is less than 3 grams per deciliter in blood. Hypoalbuminemia. The third element after hypoalbuminemia, we are going to have proteinuria, hypoalbuminemia. We have edema. Is it clear? If you have edema, those 3 major elements, it shows you it's nephrotic syndrome. Other element, you have hypercholesterolemia. And then the fifth element is renal failure. Is it clear? But renal failure is not a typical characteristic of nephrotic syndrome. It only occurs last. The second element, the second syndrome we are going to have is nephritic syndrome. Is it clear? It's nephritic syndrome. Now, you need to know that in nephritic syndrome, the first element is that you are going to have a hematuria. Is it clear? You're going to have hematuria, and you need to know that there are characteristics of nephrologic hematuria and urologic hematuria. So I want to distinguish between nephrologic and urologic hematuria. So nephrologic hematuria, when we say that the hematuria is coming from the kidney, coming from the nephron, nephrologic hematuria is the one that is it is usually total. Is it clear? Meaning that it is all through, it is total hematuria. While urologic hematuria is usually partial, it can be at the beginning of urination or at the end of the urination or at the middle of urination, but not usually all through the urination. When you have urination all through that is there, it is mostly coming from the nephron. That's the nephrologic hematuria. The second element is the color. The color of nephrologic hematuria usually is going to be dark red. The color of nephrologic hematuria usually is dark red, while for urologic hematuria usually the color is bright red. Is it clear? Now the third difference between urologic and nephrologic hematuria, in nephrologic hematuria, generally we have other symptoms. You have no other symptoms. Is it clear? It is painless. You have painless hematuria. Why in urologic hematuria, it is usually painful, actually with pain. Is it clear? There is also pain. Is it clear? Like dysuria. Now the next element also, so those are the different elements that you can have. Now in nephrologic hematuria also, you need to know that there is no clots, while in urologic hematuria you are going to have clots. Now the microscopic difference between urologic hematuria and nephrologic hematuria. In nephrologic hematuria, the microscopy is going to be how? For the microscopy of nephrologic hematuria, you are going to have Mickey Mouse red blood cells. Is it clear? Mickey Mouse red blood cells, or you are going to have abnormal shaped red blood cells. Is it clear? So we have Mickey Mouse red blood cells or dysmorphic red blood cells. Is it clear? Why in the case of urologic, you have a normal biconcave red blood cells. Normal biconcave red blood cells. Another difference is that inside nephrologic hematuria, you are going to see red blood cell casts. Cast means that when you have epithelial cells that are going to adhere the red blood cells, you're going to see it in nephrologic hematuria. While in urologic hematuria, you have no red blood cells casts. Is it clear? So that is the difference between nephrologic and urologic hematuria. And in the case of nephritic syndrome, you're going to visualize, and the other glomerular syndrome, you're going to visualize instead a nephrotic hematuria and not a urologic hematuria. Is it clear? Now, after the hematuria, the second element that you have in nephritic syndrome is that you are going to have in nephritic syndrome, you are going to also have hypertension. Is it clear? You have hypertension, you have edema, and then you have proteinuria. The proteinuria here is going to be a glomerular range proteinuria. Glomerular range proteinuria. And when we say glomerular range proteinuria, it means that it is between 1 gram to 3 grams, or the urine dipstick is 2 plus or 3 plus. Is it clear? So those are the three major ones that are characterizing nephritic syndrome: hypertension plus glomerular range proteinuria plus a nephrotic hematuria. Is it clear? So a nephrologic hematuria. Now the other elements, you have edema and we have renal failure. Is it clear? Now, for the next syndrome, you have rapidly progressing glomerulonephritis. Rapidly progressing glomerulonephritis. For rapidly progressing glomerulonephritis, you need to know that it's just a fast-acting nephritic syndrome. So it has all the characteristics of nephritic syndrome, just that it acts very fast. And the major characteristic of nephritic syndrome, we had one. So here you need to know that what rapidly progressing glomerulonephritis, instead at the beginning you are going to have renal failure. Renal failure is going to be occurring very fast before those other elements are going to be seen later on. Is it clear? So the other elements now, you're going to see it now in the case of the patient. You're going to see hypertension, you're going to see hematuria, which is a nephrologic hematuria, you're going to see a glomerular range proteinuria, and then you're going to see edema later on. But the major thing that occurs very fast here is going to be renal failure. That's why it is a rapidly progressing glomerulonephritis. Now the next one is a chronic glomerulonephritis. When you have chronic glomerulonephritis, is it clear? Now for chronic glomerulonephritis, you need to know that what chronic glomerulonephritis, you are going to have 5 major elements. The first element is going to be hypertension. Is it clear? The second element is a glomerular range proteinuria. The third element is going to be edema. Is it clear? Hypertension, glomerular range proteinuria, edema. When you have these three, you have to think that already, and when it's occurring in a chronically case. Is it clear? The fourth element, we have small size kidney. Is it clear? And particularly, the characteristic of the small size kidney is that it is small and it is bright also. Is it clear? You have small size kidney, and then the fifth element is that you have renal failure. Is it clear? So all these are the characteristics of chronic glomerulonephritis. That is the fourth syndrome. And then the fifth syndrome is the asymptomatic hematuria, and asymptomatic proteinuria, which occurs just like the name. You have proteinuria and you have hematuria, nephrologic hematuria, and you have glomerular range proteinuria, which are painless and without any symptom. Is it clear? So now the other part now of the tutorial is going to try to explain why in nephrotic syndrome we have proteinuria but we don't have hypertension, why in the cases where you have hematuria which much more have hypertension like in nephritic syndrome, or in the case of rapidly progressing glomerulonephritis, or in the case of a chronic glomerulonephritis. I'm going to try to explain that to you.